Good afternoon again. We'll be beginning shortly. We're asking that all precinct chairs move to the foyer. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Congressional District 18 Candidates Forum presented by Fox. Me in welcoming to the stage the Democratic Party Chairwoman for the state of Texas, 18th Congressional District, Ms. Linda Robinson.
I bet you can hear me now. Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. The moment we've all been waiting for. We're so glad that you're here. Isn't this a lovely occasion? Thank you to all those who gave up their time to get this event put together. We cannot thank you enough. My job this afternoon is to welcome you. Welcome to the Congressional District 18 Candidates Forum, presented by the Southeast Democrats Network, the Black Women of Greater Houston Political Action Committee, and a lot of other people. I am Dr. Linda Bell Robinson, your Congressional District 18 Chairwoman. We begin the forum today with a special moment of remembrance for a representative who dedicated herself to a lifetime of leadership. Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, taking her place among the pantheon of Greater Houstonians who have demonstrated their leadership to our city, to our nation, and to the world from this congressional district. From the likes of Congressional woman Barbara Jordan, to Congressional man Mickey Leland, and to Congressional man Craig Washington, Sheila Jackson Lee joined this honorable list of driven public servants who demonstrated great love of Houston and love of our nation. This seat has been critical in the fight for ensuring resources for our communities to grow. Through this seat, the nation has been served by the brilliance of Houstonians who have lent their voices to the national discourse. In a moment, you will hear more about those who have come before. But this afternoon, we will learn more about the candidates who desire to be the next great leader to steward this congressional seat. Again, I welcome you all here. But first, let's take a moment to honor our great nation by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand. Gentlemen, remove your caps. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will now have the seating of the Congressional District 18 precinct chairs. Please have a seat.
Kay Shepard, Precinct 30. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the president of the Black Women of Greater Houston Political Action Committee, Sharon Murphy, and charter member of the Southeast Democrats, Charles Cave.
Thank you for having us today. Okay, Thank you for having us today. So organization at the grassroots level is essential to the democratic process. True and effective governance can only come about by the sheer will of the people as you get out to vote, as we roll up our sleeves to volunteer our time. So let's make sure that we get out to vote this time and get this done. Charles?
Well, thank you. While voting is key to the process, putting the mechanism in place that allows for a fair and effective voting process is a painstaking effort that takes the commitment of hundreds of thousands of volunteers across our nation who go to work long before Election Day. All citizens have a responsibility to vote, but an effective process requires more.
So today, we focus on the part of the process that provides an opportunity for those who wish to serve us as representatives of Congressional District 18 to tell us why they should be the next congressperson. And so we're going to turn the program over back to Charles.
Our presenting sponsors are the Southeast Democrats Network and the Black Women of Greater Houston Political Action Committee. These organizations have provided the know-how and the muscle to put today's presentation together. And our media sponsors for this event is Fox 26 and the Houston Defender. Applause. Thank you. These two organizations have agreed to facilitate the discussion and share the dialogue, most importantly, with district voters who are not here today. Our partners for today also include the Harris County Democratic Party, Congressional District 9, District B United. All right, in the house. Okay. Houston Black American Democrats, HBAD, Humboldt Area Democrats. All right. McGregor Homeowners Association, Museum Park Neighborhood Association. All right. Northwood Manor Civic Club. All right. Oak Forest Democrats Club. Okay. Parkwood Civic Club. All right. Pleasantville Voters League. Riverside Civic Association. Sunnyside Civic Club. Sunnyside Gardens Bayou Estates Civic Association. And so we want to give special acknowledgement to the following: the Black Women of Greater Houston, PAC. Woo! Hill Day Public Relations. Hill Day. All right. Senatorial District 13 Club. All right. Harris County Sheriff's Department. Recording artist Zendai. Hope I pronounced that correct. The Spot Lounge and Bar. Woo! And Houston Memorable Events. Woo! From the bottom of our heart, thank you all for your support.
And now, with a special tribute to the leaders of the Congressional District 18, is the Vice President of the Black Women of Greater Houston Political Action Committee, Argentina James.
I don't get a walk-on song? No, just kidding. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. I am so excited to be here and share with you. First and foremost, let's start with protocol. Let's thank the Young Women's College Preparatory Academy for allowing us to be in their school and have this process, and these young, fabulous cheerleaders who got up and said, we want to be a part of this process, and that we want to make sure that everyone feels welcome in our school. And I do want to just say again, when we read off the partners in terms of the sponsors, this is not done without a cost. And so putting this together and making sure that we have the resources, both human capital and financial capital, is a major feat. So I want, again, let's give a big hand to all of those sponsors who have given up dollars or in-kind services to make sure that we are able to pull this off and do it in a nice way. So thank you again for all those sponsors, and thank you for coming out on Saturday to make sure that you're a part of the democratic process, because that's what it's really about, right? Special thanks to the most important people in the House is those precinct chairs right there. Let's give them a hand again. And then we want to give a great hand, and we're going to have an introduction, and we're going to have some for the candidates who are fighting for this position. Let's give them a hand for stepping out there and stepping up. So let me get back to what they told me I should be doing, right? And that's introducing and prompting the video that you're about to see. Whether it was the eloquent voice of Barbara Jordan, the heroic sense of global concern and caring displayed by Mickey Leland, the keen legal intellect of Craig Washington, or the sheer fire and determination and love of Houston displayed by Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, the 18th Congressional District has always been represented by leaders recognized all over the world. At this time, we would like to share a special tribute to the office holders of the 18th Congressional District. Let it roll.
18th Congressional District, which covers much of Houston, has been represented by 4 Democrats, and each left a significant mark on its history. First, we have Barbara Jordan,
given the ingredients,
a trailblazer who became the first black woman from the South elected to the U.S. House of Representatives.
our deafness was only a temporary condition.
Taking office in 1973, Jordan was known for her eloquent and moral integrity, most famously displayed during the Watergate hearings. In Houston, she championed improvements in urban conditions and education, advocating for federal funding to enhance Houston's public schools. Jordan also worked tirelessly to expand affordable housing and played a pivotal role in the passage of the Community Reinvestment Act, which benefited underserved communities.
If you can think it, if you can dream it, then eventually you can have it.
Following Jordan, Mickey Leland took office in 1979, bringing a passionate focus on health care and poverty alleviation to the Houston area. Leland was a key advocate for improving access to medical care, particularly for the underprivileged, and helped secure federal resources for community health care in Houston.
A growing number of poor and hungry Americans.
His dedication to addressing hunger led to the establishment of the Congressional Hunger Center and numerous local initiatives that provided food and support to the thousands of Houston residents. Former Texas State Senator Craig Washington was elected in 1989 to fill the vacancy left by the death of Mickey Leland. Washington proved to be a staunch supporter of civil rights and the rights of criminal defendants. He also continued his predecessor's focus on world hunger. And Washington's legal background won him appointments to the Judiciary Committee and the Committee on Education and Labor.
There are absolutely no...
Since 1995, Sheila Jackson Lee represented the district, bringing a strong voice for local and national issues. Known for her activism and advocacy, Jackson Lee was a staunch supporter of disaster preparedness and response, crucial for a city like Houston,
People were hurting all over.
prone to hurricanes and flooding. She was instrumental in securing federal funding for flood control projects and infrastructure improvements. Additionally, Jackson Lee was a champion for Houston's cultural and economic development, supporting initiatives to revitalize downtown and bolster small business. Her work in education, public safety, and healthcare access significantly benefited the people of Houston and made her a prominent figure in Congress. Jackson Lee was a driving force behind the establishment of Juneteenth as a national holiday, tirelessly advocating for its recognition to honor the end of slavery in the U.S. The legacies of these congressional leaders reflect their deep commitment to serving the Houston community and advocating for justice, equality, and development, a legacy we want to see continue with the district's next leader.
Woo! So I think that deserves a standing round of applause. I think that historical perspective requires a standing ovation, and I want to thank Fox for putting that together. Thank you, Fox, for making that happen. Thank you so much. So anybody that knows anything about me, I'm going to always make sure young people are included in the program. So that's why we had a little cheerleaders, and they're doing that. And I like music and I like talent. So join me in welcoming to the stage for a special music tribute our own Houston recording artist, Zandy. Come on.
There's a light in the darkness, though the night is black as my skin. There's a light burning bright, showing me the way. But I know where I've been. There's a cry in the distance. It's a voice that comes from deep within. It's a cry asking why. I pray the answer's up ahead, 'cause I know where I've been. There's a road we've been traveling, lost so many on the way, but the riches will be plenty, worth the price we had to pay. There's a dream in the future. There's a struggle that we have yet to win. But there's pride in my heart, 'cause I know where I'm going. Yes, I do. And I know where I've been. Yeah. There is a road that we must travel. There is a promise that we must make. Oh, but the riches will be plenty, yeah. Worth the risk and the chances we take. There's a dream, yeah. In the future, there's a struggle that we have yet to win. Use that pride in our hearts to lift us up until tomorrow, 'cause 'cause just to sit still would be a sin. Lord knows I know where I've been. Yeah, I give thanks to my God 'cause I know where I've been. Yeah. Thank you.
You sure do know where you been. Thank you, Zandy. You are absolutely talented and beautiful and bring grace to this occasion. For those of you who are seeking the public office, know that the voters of the 18th Congressional District demand nothing less than true leadership from the people who are elected to hold the office. Thank you. And let's also take this time to recognize the elected officials. For all the elected officials that have signed in, I have Councilmember Letitia Plummer, the City of Houston at large. If you can stand, or let's give everybody a hand. Elected officials, David Brown, CDE. Tanya Jones, CCL, H, Judge. Shannon Baldwin, HCCL number 4, Judge. Tanya Finch, ACCL number 9, Judge. Stacey Allen Barrow, Criminal Court. Travis McGee, he was elected by we the people of Sunnyside. Previn Jones, CES. Dr. Carla White, Harris County Treasurer. Wyatt. And we are in the District of Destination. And that person that represents the District of Destination is Dr. Carolyn Evans Shabazz, City Council Member of District D. So let's give all those, and if I've missed anyone, if you are in the house, please stand up and let us know that you are here. Say your name. We don't. Okay. Is there anyone else in the house? Thank you. All right. Thank you all. Oh, there's more? All righty. Thank you all, elected officials, for being here. We're going to move on to the next critical part of the program.
Ladies and gentlemen, to share with us some especially important ground rules for today's candidates forum, please welcome the Voter Protection Director for the Harris County Democratic Party, Nicole Peterson.
I was asked to make up some time, so while I'm trying to find the part of the script where I'm supposed to read, I did want to take 2 seconds to just thank Melanie Miles and the other organizers of this event. This is incredibly professional, and I am so impressed. So, okay. It's here somewhere, y'all. Or not. Okay, well, my job was to read you the rules of the forum, which I understand are going to be read again at 2 o'clock when the broadcast starts. Here we go. Okay, so first, each candidate has drawn for the order in which they will answer the questions. The first person to answer each question will then move to the end of the line. Each candidate will have exactly 1 minute to answer each question, and whoever was first to answer a question will get a 30-second rebuttal to that question only. 5 of the questions were drafted by your moderators. 2 questions will come directly from you, the audience. And each candidate will have equal opportunity to answer both of those. Then each candidate will answer 1 question directed solely at them from the community addressing a specific concern. There will be no rebuttal to that question from anyone. At the time of all the questioning, there will be time for each candidate to make a closing statement. Again, candidates have drawn randomly for that order. We ask each of our candidates to be respectful of time so that it's fair and we may get to everyone's answers to each question. And to those of you in the audience, we ask you to hold your applause until the very end so that everyone can hear each other's responses. We also ask that you do not put up signs or campaign in any way during the forum. Thank you for your adherence to these courtesies and ground rules. And enjoy.
Please join us in welcoming to the podium the president of the Southeast Democrats Network, Ms. Melanie Miles.
Hello, everyone. I tell you, you've already heard everyone say how excited they are to be here, but you know what? The energy in this room, it's just infectious. The moment you walk up, you could feel the energy and excitement, and I'm so happy about that. I'm so happy to see all of you. You know, we are here really creating history here today. This is a historical event, and the right to vote starts long before we get to the ballot box, and that's what we're doing here today. Today, we are leading the conversation and ensuring that important ideas are heard. We're also ensuring that the people of Congressional District 18 are represented with excellence. We are ensuring that when the day comes to vote, that the people needed to make change happen are in the place. That technology that is needed to make it happen is ready to collect and tabulate our votes, and that the voters have a clear sense of the policy directions and that these candidates are willing to fight for. We, as precinct chairs, are here to represent the voices of our communities, you all. So we're counting on you to give us the feedback after hearing these candidates because we have an important decision to make. That is why Southeast Democrats Network was created, so that many of your neighbors, co-workers, and friends have an organization through which to work and initiate discussions and support democracy in Southeast Houston. That is why Southeast Democrats Network is honored to present these candidates here at this forum today, along with our amazing partners and our co-hosts. So let's begin. Let's get this meeting started. And it's time for me to introduce to you the candidates, the 7 candidates that will be represented at this forum today. DJ, let's get it started. First, we have Amanda Edwards. And now, everyone, hopefully you like that walk-on music. Did you? Yeah. And now we're going to conduct the drawing for the order of questioning. The president of Humboldt Area Democrats, John Cotter, is going to assist me here. Hey, John. And John is going to pull out the names and announce them, and this will be the order for the candidate that will receive the first question.
Christina Morales.
Now the second question.
Jarvis Johnson.
Keep going.
Yep. Amanda Edwards. Carisha Rogers. Sylvester Turner. Robert Slater. And, drum roll please, Corlin Wycliffe. Okay, take that.
She's going to draw.
Okay, you got one.
Now, joining us to draw the order for the opening statements is Southeast Democrats Charter Member Charlene Jones. Ah, there you go. She's right behind me. Okay. All right, Charlene. First opening statement.
Amanda Edwards.
Next.
Carisha Rogers. Second. Sylvester Turner, third. Jarvis Johnson, fourth. Christina Morales, fifth. Robert Slater, sixth. Cortland Wycliffe, seven.
All right. And then we'll have the order for closing statements. Okay, well, Charlene's going to come back up for that, too, because the other person's not here. Okay. All right, Charlene. Closing statements.
Jarvis Johnson, number one. Christina Morales, number two. Cortland Wycliffe, number three.
Mix them up, okay.
Amanda Edwards, number four. Carisha Rogers, number five. Sylvester Turner, number six. Slater. And Robert Slater, number seven.
Okay. Soon we will begin the televised portion of this forum in approximately less than 15 minutes. Before we do, we wanted to give the candidates an opportunity to give a brief opening statement. And so in the order that was already provided, I believe your microphones are hot and ready to go. So timekeepers, are we ready? Okay. You have 2 minutes for, do we have 2 minutes? 1 minute. We have 1 minute now for an opening statement. 2 minutes. No, we have, yeah, I know, but we don't have time. With television, we just don't have time. You know. So you have 1 minute, candidates, for an opening statement. All right? Okay. Starting, ready, timekeepers? Starting now.
Good afternoon. My name is Amanda Edwards. I'm one of your former at-large Houston City Council members, but I'm standing here because I'm running to be the next Congresswoman for the 18th Congressional District. And the reason that I'm running is simple. Our community is at a crossroads, and we have one of two choices that we can make. We can either stay in place or we can choose to move forward in a way that is bold, that is innovative, and creates a community where every single person in it, no matter what their background, has the opportunity not just to get by in our community, but to thrive in our community. And that's what this work is about. I was born and raised in this district, and I remember learning about the gaps in our healthcare system by my father's illness. And I know that we need someone who has urgency, experience, and also who can bring forth new ideas so that you get the results that you are looking for and deserve. Thank you very much.
Carisha Roberts.
Good afternoon. My name is Jarvis Johnson. I am a lifelong resident of the 18th Congressional District. I cut my teeth on politics when I was about 10 years old. My mother worked for the late Congressman Mickey Leland. I was a part of his founding members of his youth task force, went on to become executive director of Phoenix Outreach Youth Center, former city council member, and now current state rep. If we're serious about helping Vice President Kamala Harris become the next president of the United States, we have to make sure that those who don't feel like they're a part of the picture, a part of the Democratic platform, are included. We need to make sure that young people see themselves in the picture, and we certainly need to make sure that black men come to the polls to vote. Otherwise, we will not win the White House in 2024. And I certainly want to make sure that I have a track record of making sure that we bring people to the polls, bringing those people to the polls to vote the numbers that we have in order to make not only Texas blue, but win the White House as well.
Okay. And the next person should be in order. Is that Carisha Rogers? Okay, Ms. Rogers.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Carisha Rogers. I am running because I am community built. I've done so much to get built by the community here today to have me run for this position because I want to give back to the very people of Congressional District 18 who have given to me. I want to fight in Congress for the people that need help for assistance, economic opportunities. I want to fight in Congress for people who need access to accessible voting rights. Again, born and raised here in Houston's 3rd Ward, just a few streets down from this very school. I have gotten many opportunities to work for the community. I've constantly worked for candidates, some of them on this table here, and I want to constantly use that experience that I've had to constantly fight for you and be the next candidate for Congressional District 18. Thank you.
The next candidate, Sylvester Turner.
Thank you. I'm Sylvester Turner. Look, we will miss Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. You can't replace her, but the work still needs to continue. I'm running because we need to make sure that there's stability in the 18th, that we carry on the legacy of the Congresswoman, and that the people's needs are met. I offer myself as a bridge from where we are now to that future generation of leaders. And the reality is, this is the 18th Congressional District. It's not any sort of district. It's a major one. And there are many things that was on the Congresswoman's desk that have yet to be completed. I want to carry that forth. We need to continue to work on the I-45 project, affordable housing. There are things with the cancer cluster in the Kashmir area, affordable care, health care, and so many others. If you look at the list of endorsements, they represent the diversity of our city. I will be honored to serve as your congressman.
Next is Mr. Slater.
How's it going? My name is Rob Slater. I was a primary candidate. You probably haven't heard of me. I always said it was her, and me. But I stayed in the race. I am a statistic, just like many of you. I was not represented well, right? My mother was I had raised by a single mother. We stayed in Star of Hope growing up, and I also was incarcerated. But upon getting out with just a culinary degree in my hand, I opened up my first restaurant, and I'm working on my second. I am a builder, and even as a successful businessman, I can't get an apartment in my name. I am fighting for this district because too many times we've been exploited and taken advantage of and told the same old things over the same old problems that actually existed when some of these people on stage, it was on their watch. You're tired, I'm tired. We need a fighter, we need an activist, we need somebody that's not going to play, that's going to stand on business. And today is the reckoning. So thank you for having me.
And the next candidate is, okay, you all don't know. Do we have, who drew next?
There's only one left. There's only one left.
No?
Yeah.
Huh? Christina
Y'all
Morales.
playing.
Thanks. Did I go? Okay. Okay, I will go. Okay, Christina Morales.
Yes. My name is Cristina Morales, State Representative for Texas House District 145. I was born and raised in Congressional District 18 in the historical 2nd Ward. I took over my family's business at 23 years old, Morales Funeral Home on Canal Street, also in the 2nd Ward. I believe that we need a fighter in this seat. I'm a brave fighter to be here today in front of you to fight for this seat because whoever wins this seat will also represent me. It will be a disservice to this community, to this congressional district, if that person does not prioritize education and the hostile takeover of our schools. It will be a disservice to this community if we don't have healthy communities, affordable housing, and we keep people in the homes they already have instead of trying to put them in a multi-family unit. This person has to work their butt off to make sure we all get out to vote on November 5th. Thank you very much.
And Mr. Cortland Wycliffe.
Hi, my name is Dr. Cortland Wycliffe, and I came out to the song I Believe. It says, don't ask me where I've been, ask me where I'm going. Well, I want to ask you, where do you want to go? Do you want to keep going down the same pathways of begging for pennies from Harris County or begging from pennies for the federal government, or do you want to attract business that can hire your kids, that can train your kids, and that can make sure that they have a future? I don't want stability. I want disruption of the status quo, because stability has shown us getting the short end of the stick for far too long. I'm here because I'm ready not to fight for you, but to win for you. I'm ready to win in D.C. from you. I'm ready to win in Austin from you. And I'm ready to go to where the companies are on the East and West Coast and win there too. I am going to bring opportunity to this district if you send me out to represent you.
Okay. Thank you all for taking the time to provide your opening remarks. The televised portion of this program will begin in exactly 3 minutes. I'm going to ask all of the candidates to please exit stage right. If you have any things you need to gather from in the front, please do so. But if you'll please exit stage right, and then you'll all be brought back on stage. Okay? I see that there are quite a few people standing around the walls. There is seating upstairs, which you can access at the back of the room. So there's plenty of seating. You can see really, really well from the balcony section. So please feel free to move up, and I think you'll be a lot more comfortable. Lastly, I want to remind everyone about the rules today, which is please hold your applause. We want to make sure that we can hear all, there's some back. Do y'all hear that feedback? We want to make sure that we can hear all of the candidates and their responses. Everyone is timed, so if we have applause after each candidate, then the next candidate won't be able to start. Okay?
For more than 50 years, Texas's 18th Congressional District, encompassing much of Houston, has been represented by 4 Democrats, each of whom has left an indelible mark on its storied history. Today, Fox 26 News, the Defender Network, the Southeast Democrats Network, and the Black Women of Greater Houston PAC bring the candidates looking to become their successor, live from the Young Women's College Prep Academy in the heart of Houston's 3rd Ward.
Check, check, check. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. We need you to go ahead and take your seats. We are about to get started right now. We certainly want to welcome you to this special coverage of the race for the 18th Congressional District Democrats Debate. I am Delon Dillard, anchor of Houston's morning show on Fox 26.
And I'm Sonny Messiah Giles, publisher and CEO of the Houston Defender Network. Let's start with an introduction of the candidates for the 18th Congressional District seat vacated by the death of longtime Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. The candidates are positioned in order alphabetically based on their last name. First, to our left, is former at-large City Council member Amanda Edwards. She is also a practicing attorney. Amanda.
Then we have State Representative Jarvis Johnson, who has represented Houston's 139th District since 2016. Before that, he served on Houston City Council. And State Representative Christina Morales has represented Houston's 145th District since her election in 2019. She is also CEO of Morales Funeral Home.
Next is community advocate Carissa Rogers, who is the leadership and support manager at the Harris County Democratic Party and former regional program manager at Texas Freedom Network. Followed by businessman Robert Slater, who is a Houston chef and developer.
Next is former Mayor Sylvester Turner, who left office in January after serving 8 years. Before that, Mr. Turner served as a Texas state representative for 27 years. And lastly, we have Dr. Cortland Wycliffe, who is the Associate Vice Provost of Academic Affairs at Rice University. He is also a local businessman, attorney, and engineer.
Now, while there have been a total of 18 candidates, the 7 on the stage today were selected through a thorough process. First, the Congressional District completed a survey indicating their top 9 candidates whom they wanted to see on the debate stage. The top 7 candidates were extended invitations to participate, with the 8th and 9th candidates serving as alternates in case any of the top 7 were unable to attend. I doubt it. The survey candidates were listed in random order and were randomly supported and sorted.
All right, we are now going to repeat the rules for you. So first and foremost, each candidate has drawn for the order in which they will answer the questions. The first person to answer each question will then move to the end of the line. Each candidate will have exactly 1 minute to answer each question. And if you go over that 60 seconds, we are not scared to let you know you're over your time, all right? And whoever was first to answer a question will then get 30 seconds to rebuttal that question only. 5 of the questions were drafted by your moderators, Sonny and I. 2 questions will come directly from the audience this afternoon, and each candidate will have equal opportunity to answer both of those.
Then each candidate will answer 1 question directed solely at them from the community, addressing a specific concern. There will be no rebuttal to that question from anyone. At the end of all the questioning, there will be time for each candidate to make a closing statement. Again, candidates have drawn randomly for that order. We ask each of the candidates to be respectful of time so that it's fair and we may get to everyone's answer to each question.
And lastly, to those of you in the audience, we ask that you hold your applause until the very end so that everyone can hear each other's responses. And also, we ask that you mute your cell phones as well, because we know how we can get when our cell phones are not muted. All right? All right. All right, let's begin with our first question this afternoon. This comes from the topic of economy. National reports indicate unemployment is on the rise. Some people say when America has a cold, Black America has pneumonia, meaning Black unemployment is always higher. What will you do to bring more jobs to the greater Houston area, but specifically the 18th Congressional District? Ms. Morales, we'll begin with you.
Thank you for that question. It all starts with our education. We have a hostile takeover of our HISD schools right now. I've been very outspoken about this issue. But how can we bring good jobs and economy to the city of Houston and to the Congressional District 18 if we don't have educated students? So that would be my top priority. We need multimodal modes of transportation. We struggle with transportation in our city, so that's another issue that needs to be addressed so that we can have a vibrant city. But another thing is to protect our immigrant community. 43% of the households in Congressional District 18 come from Spanish-speaking households. We know that our city is so amazing because we have always been welcoming to immigrants. We're the 4th largest city in the nation, and the way we can grow that is by protecting our immigrant community as well.
Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. I appreciate the question. Number one, we have to have a comprehensive plan. The 18th Congressional District does not have a plan by which we can build upon. I think that plan has to incorporate housing, economic justice, criminal justice, as well as economic development. If we're doing those things, and we understand that businesses follow rooftops, and when we're able to build into our communities better housing stock, then we're able to attract businesses. Businesses then afford young people to have jobs. When young people have jobs, they're less likely to be involved in criminal activity. As a state representative, my very first bill that I passed was to put vocational ed back into schools because not everybody's going to college, but everybody certainly needs to be job ready. And vocational ed certainly is the important element that every student needs so that when they graduate, they can either go to college, go to the armed forces, or go into the workforce prepared. And so we need to continue to work with vocational ed, but making sure we have a comprehensive plan for the 18th Congressional District.
Thank you, Ms. Edwards.
Our goal has to be to create an 18th Congressional District where everybody can thrive in it. And in order to do so, you have to have economic opportunity. While I served on City Council, I started the Small Business Owner Task Force for Women and Minority Small Business Owners to examine what we could do to make sure that we had not just the most diverse community in the nation, but the most equitable community in the nation. What we must do is make sure that we are pushing down dollars to our small businesses of colors. Right now, we have huge disparities when it comes to accessing capital for bank loans for our small businesses of color in our community. Not only should we start moving dollars from the federal government into the hands of what's known as CDFIs, Community Development Financial Institutions, because they lend at greater rates, we also must also ensure that we are providing an intentional approach to realizing a vision where then those businesses can scale and employ more people in the economy as well.
Thank you. Ms. Rogers.
The first thing that we should do, definitely when we get this position, is to make sure we have opportunities available for the community members. We need to create a space where people can go, hey, I need a job. They know locations within the district that they can go to get those said jobs. Then secondly, what we need to do after that is fight back against shrinkflation. We have inflation, but we also have shrinkflation. We need to go after companies that are constantly raising the price, recording record profits while supposedly everything is going up, but somehow you're making record profits. That doesn't match. So we need the federal government to step in and start going after these people because we already have the current administration working after apartments who are raising the rent rates extremely high. Now we need to go after other industries that are constantly targeting our people and making them into poverty. This makes no sense.
Thank you. Mr. Turner.
We took the old Sears on South Main and turned that into a major innovation center hub. It brought businesses and it brought jobs. We then followed the same model and put in TXRX in the East End. It started off at 10 to 12,000 with federal dollars, $28 million. We were able to turn that into a major manufacturing hub. And then we are now, in working with the Congresswoman, we established the Methuen Empowerment Center in Acres Home area. She put $2 million in that. That will become a major economic center. I started an organization called the Houston Economic Fund. It's a nonprofit, and working with Wells Fargo, we've received $20 million and giving over 600 small, diverse, minority businesses the startup money that they need. It's working with those resources that will help to generate jobs and opportunities.
Thank you. Mr. Slater.
With respect, Mr. Turner, the Bethune Center was supposed to open last Christmas. It's still not open, and that's the problem. We keep on talking about what we should do. Let me tell you what we will do. In the first 2 years, I would thrive to, and not just talking about getting money from federal dollars, let's invite the business and the private sector in to invest in ourselves. We need to give something that's very free. It's called the inheritance of knowledge. My first priority is to build an incubator system that teach independent business owners what a profit and loss sheet is. How do you market yourself? Give them a pride of hope so they have an office and a phone number so they can really excel. Right? And then once we mitigate that risk, then we'll bring in the investors in the private sector and have a Shark Tank that you've never seen before. People don't want jobs. They want opportunities. They want to be bosses and owners. We have the largest LLC registration in the country, but yet not the funding to support them. Jobs ain't enough for us. We want opportunities. That's it. It's simple.
Thank you. Mr. Wycliffe.
Listening across the stage, I hear a whole bunch of business as usual. We don't go and bring economic dollars into our community by begging the federal government for dollars or by doing these one-off interventions. We go by having a systemic plan to build out infrastructure. I'm glad that the ION was mentioned. That's something that I worked on very heavily because I understand that without proactively putting together packages that incentivize businesses to come to our community, we're going to always be playing catch up. It makes no sense that we are begging people to come to one of the most vibrant, diverse cities in the nation, and that's because we have failed to let people know Houston is open for business and definitely failed to let them know the CD18 is open for business. When you send me to Congress, I'll make sure everybody gets that message.
Thank you. Ms. Morales, you have 30 seconds for a rebuttal.
I hear everybody here, but how are we going to bring businesses to Congressional District 18 if we don't have good schools? When you have big corporations and small businesses that want to start up in our district, the first thing they're going to look at is our schools. How are we going to protect our real estate if we don't have good schools to send people to school? So it starts with a good education and not a charter school education.
Heads up, Jarvis is going to start with you. This question is about education. The Texas Education Agency, TEA, took over HISD. It's been 1 year now, and they are pushing, I should say, for a $4.4 billion bond election. The teachers are stressed out. The parents are upset. The fact of the matter is Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee actually pushed for an investigation by the Texas Department of Education into that takeover. The question becomes, with recent comments by Superintendent Mike Miles saying the test scores have improved, what do you plan to do, especially in light of the fact that 91% of Texas public school students are attending inadequately funded schools, including HISD?
So the question?
What do you plan to do?
Number one, as a member of appropriations, we had $34 billion in excessive money in surplus. Unfortunately, the governor and the Republicans played politics and decided to hold that money over our heads to push a voucher scam, and yet did not give teachers pay raises, did not fund schools anymore. What they're doing is placing the burden of responsibility on the local communities, and that's why your taxes continue to rise, because we pull funding from our schools. And so what we need to do is make sure, number one, got to have an investigation, because again, the governor and as well as Mike Miles are lying about these scores. They've placed our teachers in an untenable situation, and we certainly need to make sure that our teachers are taken care of so that they can take care of the children. And yet from there, we can then build a surplus of dollars coming from the federal government to enhance what the state of Texas is not, and that is to fund these schools.
Ms. Edwards.
I will no longer stand by and watch Governor Abbott play political football with our students. That is wrong. We have to make sure that HISD is protected, and what that means is instead of allowing these school relocations, teachers who are not certified being brought on board, making them at will so that they can get rid of them at the drop of a hat. We need to make sure that we are standing up in Austin. We are standing up with our investigations, because what is happening with this TEA takeover is hurting our children. The emphasis on tests. I am a product of public school. I went to Eisenhower High School in the Aldine district, and in doing so, know that the overemphasis on tests doesn't create an opportunity for our students to be prepared for today and tomorrow. We have to get our students prepared, and it starts with stopping the political football that's being played with our students.
Ms. Rogers.
Look, we know for a fact that the state government won't act in our favor until we flip it blue. So in the meantime, I wish to work with the Department of Education to continue that investigation into HISD and into the TEA for their practices. While Congressman, I also will work to de-incentivize having private schools or, charter schools, because what's happening is a lot of these people are working together to remove public schools, because I've lost one of my schools, Ryan Middle School, which is now Bader College of Medicine at Ryan. So we can't keep having these schools constantly getting lost, because I'm also hearing that Blackshear is up next on the chopping block if this bond passes. So we also have to work to make sure that the bond does not pass.
Mr. Turner.
From day one, I've opposed the takeover of HISD by the state, from day one, and continue to oppose. I join with Representative Morales and others who are opposed to that. That's the second reason why we should be opposed to anyone who wants to abolish this Department of Education, like Trump and all of his imps. And that's inconsistent with Project 2025. So we need to be opposed to that. One thing that the Congresswoman was fighting for was for the Department of Education to continue to investigate HISD. If given the opportunity, I will continue that. The other thing is that you can't bring in these uncertified teachers to teach our students. That does not work. And then I would make it very, very clear. The public should not support $4.4 billion in a bond package and give it to people who are not listening to you in the first place. That does not work. And so I'm adamantly opposed to that. And then, Mr. Slater, I was no longer mayor.
Okay,
that project
Mayor.
stopped. We continue to work on it.
All right. Mr. Slater. Yes.
Oh, I'm
you
sorry.
don't.
I got distracted. I'm going to be clear, because I have nothing to lose. I'm sorry. I'm not a politician. I'm an advocate and an activist. The first part of the Constitution is called We the People. Politicians ain't going to fix this. This is where we educate, activate, and acclimate, and we take in our own hands. Our children, my kids, not going to be bused, right? We have to get back in civil engagement. And I ask anybody to join me on November 1st. I'll be marching on the Capitol. We should bring our kids there. Abby want to ship our kids and ship immigrants across. Let's go to his house and tell him that we won't stand up no more. But we have to educate. This is not the time to pit Hispanics against African Americans. It's not the time as an internal Democratic body. We have to come together and build a coalition to attack. To hell with it. They go low, we go high. I don't know about y'all, but when things crawling me low, I steps on them, right? We need to get involved. We need to earn our stripes. Bring activeness back, man. It's a revolution.
Okay, Mr. Slater, thank you. Mr. Whitliff. Hold your applause, please. Mr. Whitliff.
So I hear a lot of articulation of the problem, and you don't go to engineers for talk about problems, you go to them for talk about solutions. If you're wanting to know how we as people in Houston can fight this takeover, it's not just about fighting in terms of grandstanding on stage. It's about actually going and talking to the people who support it, which means you have to reach across the aisle. I understand that you might find, and I do as well, some of the ideas on the other side of the aisle repugnant, but until Texas turns blue, and it will one day, it's been a long time coming, we need to learn how to work across the aisle. And in doing that, we also need to go into the resources that we have in this community. We have all of these universities who have people trying to volunteer and trying to work. And when they go trying to look to the people on stage for help, sometimes they get closed doors and sometimes they don't get return phone calls. And I won't do that. I will make sure to always respond and work.
Thank you, Mr. Whitliff. Rebuttal from Mr.
No, I think I get to answer.
Oh, I'm sorry, Christina.
The rebuttal comes.
The rebuttal comes now.
I haven't responded.
You still have one
Oh,
more
you haven't
person.
answered yet.
I haven't responded yet. Okay. Let me start out by saying no trust, no bond, turn Texas blue. That's how we fix everything that's wrong in our communities. No one has a record like I do of speaking out against the hostile takeover of our schools. I have listened to parents. They have come to me crying. They know that they can count on me to listen to them, many of them messaging me privately because they're afraid of Mike Miles. I will not stop fighting for our public schools.
Thank you, Ms. Morales. Now for the rebuttal,
May I
Mr.
ask
Johnson.
what the question was again? Because I think we
The
got
question had to do
far out
with,
there.
okay, for TEA, the TEA takeover of HISD, the fact that we are now asking for a $4.4 billion bond election, and 91% of the public schools are underfunded. Where do you stand on this? What do you plan to do?
Okay, so again, while this is a state function, and certainly as the city of Houston, to look at bonds, you want to make sure, no, we cannot support the bond because the bond is not going to make education better. The edifice never did. But as the congressional member for the 18th Congressional District, we certainly have to make sure that the Department of Justice, as well as the Department of Education, investigates what the problem is and why Governor Abbott and the Republicans are playing politics with our educational system and abusing children as for their gain in trying to get their own votes.
Harris County jails have faced another state safety inspection, pointing out the problem of overcrowding and understaffing. County Judge Lena Hidalgo indicated this is a never-ending tale of tragedies and injustices, especially the extreme case of one man who was in the county jail system for 18 years awaiting trial. If elected to the 18th Congressional District, what will you do to address overcrowding and understaffing in the jails? Ms. Edwards, we'll start with you.
Well, first of all, let me just say criminal justice has been something that the Congresswoman has championed through the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, and I would do the same, but also bringing home dollars to make sure that we don't have criminal justice systems that end up becoming the atrocities and the examples that you're highlighting, but instead that they are properly funded, so bringing home the resources. I have spent my career as a city council member, as a public finance attorney, bringing money to projects that need to be funded. That's what we need to do, is ensure that we have adequate funding to our local governments and our local organizations so that we don't have the undercrowding problem. In addition to that, I would be an advocate on criminal justice reform and make sure separately that we codify the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Right now, there's been an executive order, and we don't want that to go out when the next term happens. We want to make sure that that is codified into law as well.
Ms. Rogers.
One of the things that I definitely want to make sure we do is update our systems at the courthouses, because I think a lot of the issues rely within staffing, technology, that effectively make the process slower. So we need to work on doing that and making sure that these police will have enough resources to adequately do their jobs. On top of that, we should also review certain cases, because not every case that we have that's going before the court is a legitimate one. We have certain people with certain agendas that put people behind for various reasons. We need to make sure that when people are being put in these jails, they are being put in for the right reasons. Because I also want to fight to help people that have been wrongly convicted get out of jail.
Mr. Turner.
One of the things we know is that our jail system is the largest provider for people who have mental health services. So many of the people who are in our jails, there are underlying issues, and jail is not the answer for them. And so they need mental and behavioral health services, and we need to expand that arena. Of course, you need more space, but I would broaden it. There are a lot of people who are in our jails who lack the economic opportunities. And they don't have work, they don't have jobs, they are very good at being entrepreneurs. We need to provide those opportunities for them. And so we have to address many of the problems that people find themselves. You can take people who don't get a quality education, and in the 3rd or 4th grade, you can determine whether or not they're going to go on to a college or university or have a work experience, or whether or not they're going to end up in jail. So let's expand it. And then let's work with the Department of Justice and with the federal government to force more resources into our area.
Mr. Slater.
For those that may or may not know, I was incarcerated for 10 years, right? The keyest thing, I never went back. I just became eligible to vote last year while I was running for District 18. I've never been able to vote. And the biggest thing I give my family is the legacy of the first time I voted, I'm able to vote for myself. I had the audacity to actually write a bill on this just in case I win. It's called the Recidivism Act. It's not letting them go back that's crowding it, right? So just like we have health care, if you have come out of the system, pay into a system that gets you federally bonded. If housing and employers are afraid of you causing damages and you accrue those, then they can file a claim. Again, they're not looking for jobs, they're looking for opportunities, but they're not there, so the only thing they do, they relapse to go what they know best, and then they go back. It becomes a revolving door. Give them the opportunity and space to prove to you, like I did. I'm self-made. I'm a convicted felon standing against this handsome man right here and these great fine folks and talking to y'all.
Okay.
Mr. Wycliffe.
So you not only have to look at the space that we have, but you also have to look at why people are there. The fact of the matter is we don't have enough judges on the bench to process these cases. We do not have enough resources in our community to stop kids from getting in trouble in the first place. We do not have what we need to make sure that we're protecting young people from this system. And then we incentivize the jails to keep people in them. We need to provide incentives to stop recidivism, because at the end of the day, anybody can make a mistake, but that mistake should not define you for the rest of your life. And so I'll support legislation that will give people second chances, because everybody deserves a second chance and an opportunity to show you what they're made of.
Ms. Morales.
Okay, thank you for this question, and you know where I'm going with it. It's about education. We know that if children are not reading by 3rd grade, the chances of them going or being incarcerated are huge. Right now, our schools feel like penitentiaries. We have to work on this. We need to also decriminalize marijuana. We need to work on making sure, thank you, LaTanya. We need early childhood development. There's a lot of kids that go to school hungry. There's a lot of kids that go to school that haven't had a hug that day. So we got to focus on our education, then we can fix the problems in our jails. And listen, we need to work on those people who are formerly incarcerated. If Donald Trump can run for president, maybe we can hire people to work in our jobs too.
Or Congress. Mr. Johnson.
There are more people going back to jail than are going to jail. If you did the crime, you did the time, then you need to have the box banned. You don't need to tell anybody about your criminal history, because I truly believe that is what has held so many people back, and that is why so many people end up going back to jail. They can't get an apartment, they can't get a job, they can't feed their family, but they're having taxation without representation. I truly believe that we have to ban the box to make sure you've done your time, you did the crime, and now we need to come back and let you be a productive member of society. I also believe that by adding more police officers to the street does not mean the streets are safer. It just simply means we have more policing in our communities. And we often know in our communities, it's over-policing that is happening. And then those young men and women are going to prison simply because we are being over-policed. So I truly believe criminal justice is now criminal injustice, by which we have to hold back and make sure we're holding accountable police and judges that are sending our young men and women to jail unjustly.
Mr. Johnson, thank you. Ms. Edwards, you have 30 seconds for a rebuttal.
Absolutely. Part of the equation that we need to look at is prevention. And of course, education, investment in education, not allowing the Project 2025 approach to dismantling the Department of Ed to take place is step one. Number two, make sure that we're adequately funding our local government so that they can have facilities that work and that emphasize rehabilitation. It's amazing what happens once you leave a prison center, where you can't get a job, where you can't get housing. We need to be working with those that have gone through the system, paid their time, and now are looking to be active in the community.
Ms. Rogers, the question is directed to you. It's in regards to environment. Environmental racism is real. From the land dumps that we see in the black community, to the bus barns, to the chemical processing plants that are contaminating the air, the soil, even our water. Some would say that why we have these cancer clusters in Fifth Ward and Cashmere Gardens is because of that. What will you do to address these issues that are killing and crippling black residents? and featuring and leaving them with asthma or respiratory problems, different kinds of cancers, and other severe long-term diseases.
One thing I definitely want to keep in mind as we go about this conversation regarding the cancer clusters, we know about the 5th Ward Cancer Cluster near the Union Pacific Railroad. Another one that we've probably not heard as much about in recent years, but in the past, we've also had one in the OST South Union area over on Griggs. That location is also located as an EPA hazard and has been affecting the community. One of the things that I want to do once I become Congresswoman is that I want to be able to go after these organizations that have these buildings and make sure that we put them up to standard. We'll also go against the standard Union Pacific. One, I need them to make sure that any of the projects that are continuing to do in these neighborhoods are constantly considering the community as they exist in this area, or we need to start making harsh actions against them. I understand that the railroads is a very powerful allegiance, but that does not stop me from fighting against it because they are hurting my community and I cannot stand it anymore.
Mr. Turner.
In working with a Congresswoman, we visited with Administrator Reagan, who is over the Environmental Protection Agency. He came directly to Houston and visited people in the Kashmir and 5th Ward area. Subsequently had a meeting with him about addressing concerns in New Orleans similar to the Kashmir area, and we talked about providing additional resources coming from the federal level. With respect to the Kashmir area, as mayor, we set aside $5 million as a voluntary program for those who found themselves economically trapped to move in the same area if they so desired. And then on the federal level, they have passed what we call Justice 40. It's the first of its kind in this country, and it focuses on disadvantaged, marginalized communities that have been heavily populated. 40% of every federal legislation, like the Bipartisan Infrastructure Bill, the Inflation Reduction Act, must be given to these areas.
Mr. Slater.
But we should have gave some money to Union Pacific to move. Why are we paying residents to move from their land, right? It makes no sense. We got to stop throwing money at the problem. As a businessman, I'll be very transparent. Cities incentivize you as a developer to come in, and they have no regard on the economic or the environmental impact. We need to renegotiate those terms and agreement. If you want to come and do business in here, it has to be a clause that you must meet a standard on an economical level, on a humanitarian level, and environmental level. And those standards are written by you. The civic engagement, the community needs to set those standards. We have to involve, because guess what? Y'all been talking about this problem for 10 years. We just talk about it now because it's convenient. That got to stop.
Mr. Whitliff.
So, stop calling it a cancer cluster. If somebody came and set off a bomb in our community, we wouldn't call it an explosion cluster or a dismemberment cluster. We would call it an attack, and that's what this is. We got to stop letting these companies attack our communities. And if they do, we need to hold them accountable. That means investigations, but that also means changes in legislation to make them liable. Close out the loopholes. But more specific than that, the reason why they have so much carte blanche, the reason why they can attack our communities like this is because we have let the Supreme Court go completely awry, and we need term limitations, we need a binding code of ethics, and we need to get some of these cancers out of our Supreme Court. So at the end of the day, stop letting your oppressor brand their attacks to make it sound more palatable. They're attacking you, and I'm going to stop it.
Ms. Morales.
One of the really sad statistics that I came across as I was researching, putting in my candidacy for this position, was that some of the zip codes with the lowest life expectancy are in Congressional District 18. That is very, very sad. And this has to do with our education system, it has to do with poverty, and it has to people not caring enough. When I've spoken to some of the folks who are dealing with this, they say they feel ignored. They feel like when they talk to somebody about this, they have to be in front of a camera. We have to go into these communities and talk to these people and try to figure out a solution together. There are many people moving into these cancer clusters too, and nobody is warning them. And a lot of them don't even speak English. We need to make sure those people are informed as well about the dangers of living in those communities.
Thank you, Ms. Morales. Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson.
When I was a city council member, I wrote an ordinance that taxed corporations that had hazardous waste on their properties and in their warehouses. That way we can make sure that those companies that are the ones who are polluting our communities are being held accountable. Number two, I currently am working with the Black United Front of Texas that worked with the late Congressman Sheila Jackson Lee as they brought $20 million from the EPA to deal with environmental injustice. One of the central themes that you're going to hear me talk about over and over again is to have a comprehensive plan for what we need and what we desire to have, so that we can find what those areas are, we find out where those landfills are, and find out where those contaminated lands are, so that we can then mediate them. And we have to use the federal dollars to make sure that we have the dollars to mediate those properties and then make them proper green spaces so that we have better quality of life in our communities.
Ms. Edwards.
I've had family in 5th Ward for generations. So what is happening with the cancer cluster is very personal to me. We cannot allow our residents, people who work in our community, to be the victims of environmental injustice that we just continue to turn a blind eye to. The first step in addressing this is holding Union Pacific accountable. Retainment at this point, a retaining wall is not the answer. It's already in the soil. We have to move forward and remediate and provide people with equitable outcomes for themselves. That means to provide them what it is that it takes to truly make them whole. That's one piece. Another is about planning and bringing the public and private partners together under a cohesive plan where you don't have one government doing one thing, another group doing another. And we've got to make sure that we are supporting the movement to get the EPA all hands in on making sure that we are pushing forward this result quickly.
Edwards. Okay. Ms. Rogers, you have the rebuttal.
Okay, yes. So one of my main questions I have right now is that how many of us here have actively been on the ground before all the glamming cameras? One of the things that we must do before we have to get to this point where we have to have the EPA and everything involved is be on the ground, be able to connect with community members and talk to them about what's going on and understand the businesses that are hurt and affected. We need to take preemptive measures, not just constantly reacting.
In recent years, Houston has experienced horrendous natural disasters, hurricanes, ice storms, electrical outages shutting down refrigerators and freezers, causing people to throw away good food while other people could not work. We know dozens of people from this last hurricane died because of power outage-related deaths. And then there is the flooding when we have heavy rain. Some say Houston has an infrastructure problem, or we need to do regular tree maintenance, which all costs money. What will you do, if elected, to address these issues from a federal perspective and ensure we have adequate funding? Mr. Turner, we'll begin with you.
And that's why so much is at stake, but the decision has to be made. The bipartisan infrastructure bill is already in place, and the dollars are flowing right now. As mayor, we pulled down hundreds of millions. But in terms of that North Canal project with hazard mitigation grant funding, those are federal dollars. That project needs to move forward. The Inwood Basin on the north side, federal dollars, and that will hold more water than the Astrodome. So when it comes to the bipartisan infrastructure bill, when it comes to the Inflation Reduction Act, if you don't put someone in as a congressperson right now, 2-4 years from now, those dollars will be gone. And so we need to make sure that there are the relationships already established to pull down hundreds of millions of dollars for the infrastructure, for Greens Bayou, Hawes Bayou, all of the flooding mitigation, resilience. That's an urgent matter that has to be addressed now,
Mr. Turner,
not 4 years from now.
Mr. Slater.
We keep going to the same ATM to fix our problems. We're not tapping and expanding our resource pool. Let me tell you, what Centerpoint won't tell you. I have a restaurant in League City where power came back on in one day, but the restaurant I operate right here in 3rd Ward took a whole week. So that tells me that based off of your zip code and your income, determined on when your electricity get back on. So I can only imagine that our seniors and people that are underserved, they took weeks to get their electricity back on. So the plan is, let's really attached to solar. My plan is to get 3 acres and fill it with solar panels that can power up to 3,000 homes and subsidize it so our underserved do not have to depend on CenterPoint to come back out. And that would save emergency resources to go back out because they're the most at risk. I look out into the coast and I see chemical plants and I see, that's great. What if I saw some turbines? You mean to tell me that if a hurricane come in, I could generate energy? One single turbine could generate energy for 940 homes. Don't tell me it's not possible. We need to take our underserved and our most at risk and put them on their own independence, not keep on talking
Mr.
about
Slater,
infrastructure and going to get money from the federal government. They're not doing it.
Mr. Wycliffe.
So it's a combination of things you've heard. Yes, we need to start getting our power from different sources, but the issue with CenterPoint wasn't that we didn't have enough oil and gas to power our city, it's that they didn't have the adequate power lines to get the power to who needed it. We can't keep accepting that every problem has some coin solution. We need to go out and actually do the work of getting a comprehensive solution brought to people. In the case of infrastructure, it's not just about federal dollars, because while these projects are going on, people are still going to be flooding. If you got individual businesses, when they're building new neighborhoods, to be required to put in retention ponds and be required to address flooding, there's a reason why there are neighborhoods in 3rd Ward that flood, but if you go out to Siena, they don't. The reason is because they do better construction, because they are investing more in those areas, and we need to demand that anybody doing business in Houston does the same.
Exactly.
Ms. Morales.
Could you repeat the question?
What will you do if elected to Congress to address the issue of infrastructure here in Houston when it comes to hurricanes, flooding, and natural disasters?
Thank you. Just wanted to make sure I'm answering the right question. We do need coordinated efforts to fix our infrastructure. And this is a collaboration of federal government, state government, county, and city governments. It's not something that this seat can do by itself. But when we do have these disasters coming into our community, we need to make sure that we're ready to serve the people. One complaint I heard when I talked to some of the precinct chairs is many elected officials hold on to corporate campaign dollars in their bank accounts and don't go out into the community to pass out resources. That is something that I'm very good at. During COVID, I had 16 distributions of food and water in my district. During this last hurricane, I was able to bring together many elected officials so that we could have a coordinated effort to make sure that the community was getting everything it needed. And I have to stop. Sorry.
Mr. Johnson.
As a senior member of appropriations in the state of Texas, I brought back millions of dollars for infrastructure. We brought back money for the Ike Dike. We wanted to make sure it was there. But one of the things that did not happen, that was for the entire Harris County region. But one of the things that we did not have was, again, a coordinated, comprehensive plan for what we want to see done to build better infrastructure for our communities. There's no zoning in our city. We just kind of build arbitrarily. But we certainly have to make sure we have a coordinated effort between the state representative, county commissioners, city council members, school board members, and you, the precinct judges, because you're the first line. So we need to make sure we have coordinated efforts. Number two, we deregulated the energy industry, but we left CenterPoint alone to be a monopoly of the lines. And so therefore, there is no competition and there is no rush or need for them to fix those wooden poles instead of making them into metal poles. And certainly no competition to make a desire to make them bury them so that we don't be in these situations over and over again. So we have to hold them accountable
Johnson,
and deregulate the poles.
Ms. Edwards.
Just about 7 years ago, something called Harvey hit our community. That was 51 inches of rainfall that fell across our community. You know that experience. I don't have to tell you about it. But what I will tell you, when I rolled up my sleeves and started going door to door to check on our seniors who were in need of help, what I learned is that disaster recovery in our country does not work for its people. It doesn't. By the time you find out what the policies are, you have already spent your life savings. You don't know they might buy out your home because somebody's already knocked at your door. The resources coming down to the local governments are slow, several months on end. I recommend and I will push as your next congresswoman to overhaul and transform disaster recovery because it doesn't work for a single person in this community. In addition to that, I will make sure that we are not just in a position where we're playing defense. We cannot stop the rain from falling, but we can be prepared to catch it. So we've got to invest in
Ms.
our
Edwards,
community.
thank you. Ms. Rogers.
So one of the main things that we need to address with Centerpoint is that if we're going to have Centerpoint exist to a point where we can't automatically get rid of them, we're going to need federal oversight. If Texas wants to have an independent grid, then we need to keep an eye on it. I also want to make efforts to make sure that we have already emergency services in place for any storm that happens or any incident that requires critical infrastructure loss to make sure that we are able to serve the community right as it happens. So I don't want to waste any time. We need people to have water, food, shelter immediately. I cannot stress this enough because I was without power for 5 days during the recent storm, and I know people in my community were suffering through that because we were one of the last neighborhoods to get restored, and I'm not taking that anymore. No matter any of our personal feelings about this, we have to make sure that we work with the federal government to put proper oversight on this because our jobs as congresspeople is to serve you. I am here for you. I'm not here for nobody else. So what I'm going to do is get the federal government to make sure that they're doing their jobs to address the government and address the problem with Centerpoint.
Mr. Turner, you have 30 seconds for a rebuttal.
As the congressperson, the resources are available now through the bipartisan infrastructure bill, through the Inflation Reduction Act. Those resources are there now. If you don't know where they are or how to access them, we will lose those dollars because they will go to other places. That's what we've been working on for years. And there are already measures put in place to provide us with the resources and the infrastructure.
Mr. Turner,
but you got to go and get them now.
At this portion of the program, we are going to ask questions from community concerns, and we will start with Mr. Robert Slater. Mr. Slater, on your website, you listed a number of pillars, campaign pillars, and your life journey from homelessness and incarceration to being a successful businessman. It demonstrates your personal fortitude. You mentioned bringing resources to the 18th Congressional District. Tell me what kind of resources you would bring if elected.
As we've been talking about, I'm sorry?
I said, and be specific, not long-winded.
Oh, absolutely. I would definitely try. Yes, ma'am. Let's get to it. The resources is education, cohesion, organization, coalition. Is that specific enough?
That's specific, brother.
Let me go a little bit more specific. It starts with the people. Organizations from our Hispanic community, our elders, places like our African family, what Kendra London is doing, the Houston Millennials, Diaspora, SAID Institute, bringing the people together to educate our young entrepreneurs and show them how to have opportunities and not just jobs. So when I'm talking about the resources of bringing in, it's the education that we're fighting for my elders right now to pass on to us as millennials. We want to give that forward. That's the best thing that we can do is the inheritance of success and not hold it with us.
Thank you.
Mr. Wycliffe, you are an educated scholar and lawyer. As Associate Vice Provost of Academic Affairs at Rice University, what have you done specifically in the black community that merits the precinct chairs, considering you for the role of U.S. Rep of the 18th Congressional District?
Well, long before I was at Rice University, I was in this community. Long before I even thought about where I was going to college, I was volunteering at Project Row Houses. Long before I was getting all of this education, I was helping others that were coming behind me. This is something that I have been doing my entire life. This is a legacy that I inherited from my uncle, who was Barbara Jordan's campaign manager when she won this seat 50 years ago. This is something that resides in me that I'm ready to bring out. And let's be clear. I went to some of those universities that were outside of the black community so I could go to those alumni and bring back dollars into the black community. We don't need to keep pilfering the same pockets that we've been going to for years on end. We need to go and find new money. And sometimes that's some old money. I'm comfortable going into those environments and bringing it back, and that's what I'm going to do for the 18th.
Right. Ms. Morales, according to Data USA, the 18th Congressional District is changing, now boasting a population of 44% Hispanic. Talk to us about how you will work to build a stronger coalition between blacks and Hispanics as the district transforms and why you can better serve the 18th Congressional District.
Thank you so much for that question. The district is now, as you mentioned, 45% Latino. One thing that I did in the Texas House with my colleague right here is we passed a historic bill to make sure that our high school students had access to African American studies, Mexican American studies, and soon we will have Asian American studies. This was a big deal. This was a way of bringing all of these communities together. There is a community here in Houston and in Congressional District 18 that feels overlooked sometimes. So I think I could bring that community out, work with Black community leaders, and roll up my sleeves, which is what I do best, and make sure that we're addressing all the issues and bringing everybody together. I am the most progressive legislator in Harris County, the second in the State House. And what holds this community together are its democratic and progressive values.
Mr. Johnson, you are fresh off of the campaign trail, running for Texas State Senate in the May runoff after serving as state rep. Since being elected in 2016, what legislation did you pass, and what makes you uniquely qualified to serve as the U.S. rep for the 18th District?
Since being elected in 2016, I've written and passed over 50 bills. Some of those bills, as you've already heard, was bringing vocational ed back to our schools, making sure that we were able to have adequate access to health care for people who are afflicted with sickle cell. And I wrote the bill to get rid of the most racist holiday in the entire country, and that's called Confederate Heroes Day, that we need to abolish in this state. I've written a bill to make sure that teachers had access to quality health care, and as well to get our retired teachers their pay raises. So there have been work that I've already done. So it makes me uniquely qualified is don't judge me based on the words that I speak, but judge me based on the work that I will be able to produce, that I've already demonstrated to you that I've already produced. And so when you look forward to having a congressional person, you need not only the passion, not only the spirit, but certainly the demonstration of work to be done.
Ms. Edwards, you ran in the March primary against Sheila Jackson Lee for the 18th Congressional District, indicating it's time for a new generation. Since you've been out of office in City Council, you've run for a number of offices. What has caused some community concern is, are you genuine in your pursuit of service? So what community initiatives or policies have you worked on for the betterment of the community, and what progress have you made?
So in this time since I left council, I have been doing the work of the people. I have rolled up my sleeves and gotten to work and formed a nonprofit where we serve the least among these. And that includes making sure our seniors who have been left behind in the recovery don't continue to be left behind. One gentleman who was 84 years old by the name of Mr. Brown told me, I just want a decent place to live before I die. And while I knocked on the doors of the people I had contacts with, we ended up bringing forward our nonprofit partners and rebuilt his home, and many others we've helped as well. So we continue to do the work. Now, you may not see the cameras follow me as I do this work. It is sensitive in nature, and the people who are most vulnerable don't want to be captured on film. They just want the help. They trust and know that no matter what office I hold, that I have their best interest in mind, and I will deliver for the people. That's what this work is all about.
Ms. Rogers, on your LinkedIn page, you describe yourself as a major political nerd looking to become an elected leader in the future. Talk to us about why you believe you are ready to represent the 18th Congressional District.
Yes, that's an easy question. Basically, I've been raised in this community for all my life. I'm 30 years old now. I've been, since I graduated high school in 2012, on campaign after campaign. Funny enough, I started with the Planned Parenthood, helping people with the Affordable Care Act, followed by working on Sylvester Turner's first mayoral run, and then working on the bond election that he had years following. Just working on Felicity Fletcher, Molly Cook. I've worked on a dozen of candidates. I'm working on these candidates' races because I am learning. I want to know what it takes to be the best candidate. And I feel at this stage of the game, I am the best candidate because, one, I want to invest in the future of CD18, not just for the present, but for the future. I'm very committed to doing that.
Okay. Mr. Turner.
Yes.
You've served the city well.
Thank you.
From state rep to mayor. Plus, you have the most experience on this stage, having gone through hurricanes, ice storms, and raising campaign funds. Folks are concerned about your health. although they understand you got it under control. We know that seniority is a key factor in Congress, yet you have said that you will serve for 2 years or 2 terms. Is it fair to only serve for 4 years? Tell us why you are compelled to run for this position and what you hope to accomplish.
Thank you. And I will say yes, I appreciate people who are genuinely concerned about my health. I was diagnosed with cancer back in 2022. My jaw was reconstructed and then went through radiation in August of 2022. I had some of the best health care that one can find. I've been blessed. That makes me even more passionate to fight for millions of people across this country, thousands in the 18th, who do not have access to health care like I did, and the meaning of the importance of continuing the ACA, the Affordable Care Act. My doctor told me when I asked him about running for the 18th, he said, Sylvester, live your purpose. You're here to serve, serve. And so I would say to you, many people think cancer means cancel your life. No, cancer does not mean the end. And so we need to destigmatize cancer. That's why a lot of people don't talk about it, because people use it in the wrong way. So I'm here, I'm eager, I'm ready to serve, Turner, and I'm proud of these young folk who are standing on the stage with me, ready to serve Turner, as well.
Thank you. These next questions come from members of the audience. This is a two-part question. First, will you limit the number of terms that you will serve in this role if elected? And 2, will you push for term limits for Senate and congressional offices? Mr. Wycliffe, will begin with you.
The answer to both of those questions is yes. I have made the commitment that I do not believe that the person sitting in this seat can uphold the legacy of this seat while campaigning for re-election in 2026. I believe that Kamala Harris, and we are making sure that she gets into that White House, she is in the fight for our lives with a very slim margin. And I have said that I don't believe you can be campaigning in Harris County and doing the work of Congress in D.C. So I've already said that this is the only term that I'm going to run for, and I will be helping the district transition to new leadership in 2026. And I also support, we need to stop viewing these seats as fiefdoms that get to be held till the end of time. We need new leadership in, new ideas in, and it's not just Congress. We also need term limitations for the Supreme Court. A lot of our problems are because of these lifetime appointments that we allow them to have. So yes, I support term limitations, and I'm going to limit my own. Oh, my.
Ms. Morales.
Okay.
Do you need me to repeat the
yes,
question?
I'm sorry.
Will you limit the number of terms you would serve if elected, and will you push for term limits for the Senate and Congress?
I think it's a disservice to this district to have someone who wants to serve a limited amount. Yet, I do believe in term limits. This person, whoever is in this seat, I want to remind you that I was born and raised in this district, and that the district, with the growth of the Latino population, is a predominantly Latino district now. And I know that's hard for some people to understand.
Go ahead, Ms. Morales.
Okay, so I just want to say that whoever has this seat, they must use the time from now until November 5th to get everyone out to vote. That is the most important job right now to the person who earns this prestigious nomination. And thank you to the precinct chairs for all the work you do for our democracy.
Ms. Morales, thank you. Just a reminder, I understand y'all are passionate. We just need y'all to allow them to answer the questions within 60 seconds. Mr. Johnson.
Yes, not only will I push for congressional term limits and Senate term limits, but I also believe that we have to push for Supreme Court term limits. Unfortunately, if Donald Trump becomes president again, he'll have the opportunity of having two more seats to put in place. Even if we turn blue, we will still have an ultra right-wing conservative Supreme Court that will be in place for generations to come. So I believe that there needs to be term limits. I believe term limits are important so that young people understand that the same person won't sit there well into their 70s and 80s, but certainly understand that they have an opportunity and a chance to be a part of the process. When people feel like they can be a part of the process, they see themselves in the picture, they want to then participate. The reason why our numbers are down in the Democratic Party, it ain't because just the Republicans are suppressing our vote. We oftentimes suppress our own vote because we don't encourage young people to be a part of the process and encourage them to do so.
Ms. Edwards.
I absolutely support term limits. We have just watched President Biden step aside to make room for Vice President Harris to now ignite the Democratic Party and certainly lead us into preserving our democracy and creating new opportunity. With term limits, we are making way for new voices to emerge, new ideas. It doesn't mean you're discarding the ideas of the past. It doesn't mean that you're not building upon a legacy. It's just like a relay race. Each leg of that race has a role. And if we don't pass that baton forward, our community will suffer. It will suffer from not having new ideas. It will suffer because we're not able to progress. It will suffer because we are suffocating our own voices. We can't ask our young people why you don't show up when they don't see themselves and hear themselves and feel the impact of the work that we do. It is time to include everybody in this party, and that's partly what term limits
Edwards,
can do.
thank you. Ms. Rogers.
One of the main reasons why young people don't get involved and don't get engaged is because we never get a voice at the table. If we want to get the future of young leaders to be involved in this process, we need to have them be able to have the active process to be involved, and we also need to create paths for them to be involved as well. Because my journey through this has not been an easy one. I have had to go through many campaigns and many tears to reach the point where I am today. So am I in for term limits? Hell yes, I'm in for term limits. One of the main things that we also got to do, because right now in Congressional District 18, our voter turnout is low. If we want to be able to do that, we need to make sure that we are putting young voices forward to help them understand that your vote has power. If we want to make sure that we understand these people, young votes have power, we also need to be able to create a new generation. So if I were to be Congresswoman, that's what I would do. I would help start creating the next generation of leaders. And then when my terms is up, I will give you a list of candidates that you can pick from, and from there you do the job.
Mr. Turner.
As a state representative, I voluntarily stepped down to allow someone else to come forward. In fact, it was Representative Jarvis Johnson who followed me. I didn't need term limits. I served, I stepped down. I've offered myself as a bridge to that next generation. The stakes are too high. The needs in our community are too great. And it's important to have people in Congress who understand the ropes, that have the relationships, who can make things happen for people who stand in need. And also, these are exigent circumstances. The Congresswoman is not here at a critical point in the election process. And everybody should have the right to run. And so I said I would stay for 1, maximum 2 terms. But let us be very, very clear. Seniority has its value. But you better make sure you get the right person in, or you'll have the wrong person there for a long time.
Mr. Slater.
So the question, yes, I believe in term limits. I also believe that it should be a midterm vote for confidence, but I also think it should be term limits on how many races you can run in a matter of 5 years. We've been playing musical chairs. When you lose here, you jump there. When you don't get, when are you going to learn that some people are just tired of you? Sit down. It's time to sit down. So yes, seniority does have a place, but where does new ideas fit in? Where does representation is relative? They have to relate to you. We just saw that voter turnout was at its lowest, and these are the people that say they're going to bring the people out? Let's be honest. We have to inspire. We have to motivate. We have to bring hope. Not the same old rerun show. We've seen what you could do. What can you do more? So this is the moment that you as precinct judges have a critical moment to make a decision on faith. And I'm saying from a young generation, we don't want to fight against you. We want to fight for you. We want to fight for you. I don't want to see you work this hard. My grandma taught me how to snap peas, taught me how to cook. I'm a chef now. Give me the game, coach. That's all I'm saying.
Mr. Slater, thank you. Mr. Wycliffe, you have 30 seconds for a rebuttal.
I keep hearing about how the previous generation is waiting for people to step up. and they give us a list of things that they need to see in us before they're ready to step aside. Get an education, got that. Get some great experience, got that. Be comfortable advocating for people, got that. At what point what resume do you need to see before a lot of these leaders are ready to step aside and let new blood to the table? If it isn't me, who is it?
The next audience question comes from a U of H student, Joshua Martin. The majority of Houston College students are commuters. Plenty of them struggle to get to class because of a poor public transit system. How will you bring the federal dollars and your work with the city to enhance rail and public transit? And we will start with Christina Morales.
So the question is about transportation.
For students,
For
particularly
students in particular.
the corridor.
Well, we passed an election to make sure, that we would expand Metro, and we're not doing that. It looks like the program is going to be stopped right now, and that is going to harm our students. We need to think of more and creative ways to use electric cars and ride sharing and other forms of transportation, so we're not just relying on cars. So we do need to help our students not only with transportation, but also make sure they're not graduating with debt. So we need to reduce our student debt and make sure that kids have an opportunity in life. So many of them are graduating right now in debt. That's why they can't afford transportation. So we have to work on many levels.
Morales.
Sorry.
All right.
Sorry.
Mr. Johnson.
Your question is about student transportation?
Students are concerned about the corridor that relates to U of H and Texas Southern that is being shut down by Metro, and they want to know how can you help them fix that transportation system.
They want to fix public transportation?
Yes. You got any ideas?
I'm really not understanding the question, because you're saying students don't want public transportation?
No, students want public transportation.
But you're saying the corridor-
rail is being shut down.
Oh, the rail is being shut down.
The rail is being shut down in the U of H Texas Southern corridor. And as a result, Joshua is asking, what can you do with federal dollars to help the students maintain a system of transportation?
Well, it's not about just maintaining just for students. This is truly, those lines are for everyone. So we have to, again, I'm going to go back to my original point. If you don't have a comprehensive plan that everyone has put their finger on, everyone has input in, then we have to make sure that we have the transportation dollars made available. Certainly Metro can do a better job. I've never been a proponent of these 1 and 2 rail lines that I don't think connect anything. We certainly need to have better connectivity from the Houston airport to downtown to all of the communities all across the city. But it does take dollars. And I think that comes with, again, having a comprehensive plan that we all can put our finger on and know, moving forward, you will be a part of the process, not simply the loud community over there got rail and we didn't, or this community over here didn't get it, but we absolutely need it. So at the end of the day, that's certainly what I believe we need to do, is to have the plan so that everybody understands where it is and they'll know how to give their input.
To just make it clear, the voters did vote on a Metro plan that they bought into, and now Metro is reneging on the plan. So Amanda Edwards, your question, your answer to that question. Joshua, thanks for the question.
Thank you, Sonny. 4.2 million people are going to be coming into our 8-county region in the next 20 years. And yet we stand here today unprepared with no plan for multimodal transit that will make a real difference in our community. We have got to stop being afraid of tackling the issue of transportation. And that is something I led the charge when I led the high capacity task force at TPC. I was the voice at the table that said we cannot just look at what is happening today. We have to be prepared for tomorrow. Not only do we need to have a transportation system that connects neighborhoods and communities to downtown and to education centers, but we have to do that for people who are public transportation dependent and who want to use it optionally. We also have to recognize that this creates economic opportunity for our communities. So the longer we allow Republicans to continue to say it's waste, the longer we will keep our
Ms.
community
Edwards.
behind.
Ms. Rogers.
Yes. So one of the main things that we have to keep in mind when we want this project to do, one, I want to go after Metro and understand why they canceled this project. Tell me exactly right now why you canceled this project. It is just voted on by Houston voters. I can't stand for that. Secondly,
low
I know
ridership.
Say again?
It's low ridership.
Oh, low ridership. Yeah, they use low ridership as a reason, but the problem is that people don't rely on Metro because Metro itself has not given the feeling of reliability. So we have to work with that. One, also, when we're building these connection corridors, because when I've been talking to people in the community, the main thing they're concerned about is how these transit systems impact their neighborhood, because especially when we have the rail line over in 3rd Ward, people are concerned about the gentrification of that area. And as we see, some of the area next to that light rail has been gentrified. We have to prevent that if we want people to be more open to the idea of having public transit in their neighborhoods.
Mr. Turner?
The Metro Next program was passed in 2019 by 65% of the voters. It is a comprehensive plan. A part of that was the university line. And with the university line, it was going to go from one end of town from west, including Texas Southern University of Houston, and heading north. The federal government, thanks again to Sheila Jackson Lee and others, was providing $1 billion of that 60% cost. For whatever reason, Metro has decided to put that on hold. You can be the best congressperson and bring federal dollars, but if you don't use it locally, then you're giving it back for other cities and other states. But that program, $1 billion, was coming into the city of Houston, federal dollars, 6% of the cost. As the congressperson of the 18th, I would re-emphasize the importance of that and even seek to attract even more dollars to expand our mass transit system.
Mr. Slater.
As your congressman, I will build an ecosystem where we're independent versus dependent on the federal government, and we keep on hearing the same old, same old. We've been talking about Metro for a long time. So to the young man, to a specific question, within 6 months, I will negotiate to bring at the minimum at least 200 ride-share vehicles into this community. And to my young students that want to pay off their debt, well, guess what? There go jobs for you to pay it off because you don't want it for free. You want to earn your keep. So everything is synergy if we just take the time and make it comprehensive. We could create jobs and have it to where it serves the students, but it also serves our elders that need to go to the grocery store. It takes them to get their medicine, so on and so forth. The community can serve the community. We just have to have a leader to create the ecosystem and build it. We don't need to depend on Uncle Sam every damn day.
All righty, Mr. Wycliffe.
Answering the specific question, what can I do as congressman to address this problem? First and foremost, we can't just rely on government. We can't just rely on federal dollars. We can't just rely on these government agencies. It's clear that they are not prepared for the task at hand. We need to get more private sector involved. I know how to negotiate those deals. But more than that, why are you having to commute to school? It's because nothing around U of H is affordable for students. We have allowed monopolies to take over our housing market, and it's impossible for any young person to get into housing. I'm going to combat that. I'm going to do this thing that used to be on the books that we did all the time. It's called antitrust investigations, and start getting some of these monopolies broken up so we get competition for the benefit of the community.
Ms. Christina Morales, you have the rebuttal.
We do need to look out for our college students. And we know that many of them are graduating or can't even finish college because it's very, very expensive. And that makes it more difficult for them to commute back and forth to school. So I support mass transportation. I have a child who doesn't live in Texas anymore because she said, "Mom, it's too hard to get around in Houston, Texas." So this would be a priority issue for me as well. Thank you.
Okay, now we have a quick rapid fire question. What is the number one issue your administration will tackle? This is just one answer, and you have 30 seconds. We will begin with Mr. Johnson.
Voter participation. If we don't get our voting numbers up, then we won't win the state, and we certainly won't win the White House. We have to make sure that people see themselves in the picture. There are 88 precinct judges out of 243 precincts, and yet only about 30 are here today. That's why there is voter fatigue and there's voter apathy. We have to make sure that everyone understands that they are important to this process, and we can't just simply allow just a small number of people to participate and making the decisions for the majority.
Mr. Johnson, thank you. Ms. Edwards.
Housing. There are so many residents who cannot afford to live in our city and who are not providing the protections that they need, and especially when there's something wrong with their housing. We need to bring all levels of government together, convene those government levels alongside our nonprofit partners, and help case manage them. Instead of getting a series of no's, we need to help them find a pathway to a yes. How do I get help? How do I find housing that I can afford inside of the city that I love?
Ms. Rogers.
The John Lewis Voting Rights Act. One of the things that we have to make sure
You hit the,
sorry. One of the main things we have to make sure is that when we are having people going out to vote, they have to know that their vote matters. We have so many apathetic voters currently in the area. One of the things I've been constantly doing with the state legislators is being in the Capitol for 12 to 14 hours trying to fight back against terrible legislation that's been put against us. That's exactly why I'm running for this seat, because we need federal intervention.
Mr. Turner.
Community and economic revitalization. There are so many communities in the 18th where there's been a lack of investments, and we need dollars to be flowing in there. We need jobs, opportunities, and opportunities for businesses to flourish. If you put people in a better economic state, they can also then have affordable housing. They can then do things for themselves and raising their kids. But these communities have been suppressed for so long that we need to provide every opportunity to lift them up.
Mr. Turner, thank you. Mr. Slater.
Recidivism. 1 in 3 African-American men and minorities, as dealt with a criminal justice system, they have a record. That's 1 in 3 men. In District 18 alone, it's up to 38%. You come out, you're still paying invoices for things that you have done years ago. We must stop. We must figure out a way to get them acclimated back into society and make them productive so they are contributing back to it. But most importantly, it creates for good mental health. It creates to give them a self-worth. It's nothing better to being self-made and overcoming challenges.
Mr. Slater, thank you. Mr. Wycliffe.
The Supreme Court. Everything that has been mentioned on this stage thus far, and probably everything that will be mentioned, is related to and made worse by the fact that we have the most partisan, useless Supreme Court that we've ever had. We need to rectify that immediately.
Ms. Morales.
So again, I'm going to go back to education, because most of the issues that were brought up by the candidates here could be fixed through education, whether it's teaching civic engagement, whether it's making sure that children are reading by 3rd grade. We need early childhood development. We need to make sure that our students, who are the future of our neighborhoods, are protected with the education, the Department of Education, and that's the first thing I would do.
Okay, we are transitioning to closing statements. As we mentioned at the start of this debate, each candidate will have exactly 1 minute for a closing statement. The order was drawn and decided before the start of the debate.
and just to refresh your memory, the order is Johnson, Morales, Wycliffe, Edwards, Rogers, Turner, Slater. With that, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, and I certainly appreciate the opportunity of coming before you and discussing the issues, but this has been the most hardest and difficult process there is. How do you make a decision based on 1 minute questions and 2 minute openings? And I think that is what has been the problem. I want to become the next congressperson for the 18th Congressional District because I want to increase voter participation, I want to increase voter turnout, and I want to make sure that Vice President Kamala Harris wins the White House. And the only way we can do that is by making sure that we have a comprehensive plan that all people feel like they are in the picture. When you have your yearbook, first thing you look for is your picture in the book. Many people don't see themselves in the picture and therefore stay at home. We have an opportunity of winning Senate. We have an opportunity of winning the White House. And so we certainly must get out to vote, but everybody has to participate. I want to drive voter turnout, and I've done that as a state representative. Since I've been a state representative, I have increased voter turnout in my district by almost 41%.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
And I certainly will do that in the 18th.
Ms. Morales.
It's a hard question to answer in 1 minute or give a closing statement, but I do want to say that I was born and raised in this district. I was born in 2nd Ward, a historical district here in Congressional District 18. The first thing that somebody needs to do in this job is to get everyone out to vote. I've been working with the party and different organizations to make sure that folks are getting out to vote. It would be a disservice to this seat to not have somebody who's here to serve for at least 10 years, if not more. At least 10 years, because as a legislator, and one of only 3 on this stage, I have that kind of experience, and I know that seniority matters. This community cannot afford to have somebody who's only here for 2 to 3 terms. We need somebody who's here for the long fight.
Mr. Whitliff.
It is crazy to sit up here and listen to people brag about how great of a job they've done, when at every metric that you can look at in your life is worse today than when they took office.
Shh, please, audience, let him breathe.
Your reaction is part of the problem. Being very honest, no. My generation is concerned about this country. My generation is ready to fight for this country. My generation is ready to roll up our sleeves and get to work, and we're not here talking about just campaigning. We're talking about the day-to-day fight. I do not want to go out here and brag about fighting for you. I want to brag about winning for you. Send me to Congress, and I am going to win these battles that I promised, and I'm going to deliver on the things that I said I'll bring to you.
Ms. Edwards, audience, would you please be respectful? These are the closing comments, and they are important. Ms. Edwards?
This campaign is not just about me or the candidates standing on this stage. This campaign is about you and all of you in this room and in the 18th Congressional District getting the leadership that will deliver the results that you're looking for, both today and tomorrow. It is our job to put someone in place who will have experience in Washington. I'm the only person on this stage that has worked for Congresswoman Jackson Lee's D.C. office, so I know how to do that. But separately, I've worked to bring public funding to projects. I've worked as a city council member, being effective at delivering the change that we talk about and that the community deserves. So when you make this decision, don't make this decision based on politics. Make it on your ability to actually have a community in which your housing, your economic opportunity, your healthcare access, infrastructure investment reflects the community you need to see.
Thank you, Ms. Edwards. Ms. Rogers?
I'm running for this seat because I'm fighting for the community. I'm not running for this seat to try to hop seats. I really want to invest for Congressional District 18. And let's get one thing clear. None of us here have federal experience. When we dot that door in D.C., we are all freshman Congress people. We have to put in more work. Secondly, I have knocked on thousands of doors here in the Houston community, constantly listening to people's feedback, trying to help people build the best candidates that we can have for office. But now I am stepping up to do that. One of the things that we must do is also raise a future generation of congresspeople or any elected position to constantly help them represent. And I want to be the congresswoman that can do that. I want to bring high school students and college students to help them become newly elected leaders so we don't have to keep seeing the same faces in office. Secondly, our job as congresspeople, we are to serve for the federal government. We may not like them. Our job here as congresspeople is to serve for your behalf at the federal government level. And one of the main things I'm doing is I'm community building.
Close it down, Ms. Rogers. Okay. Hello, Mr. Turner.
There's a lot that's at stake here. Let me acknowledge the precinct judges because you're having to make a decision in less than 3 weeks under some very difficult circumstances. And there are many voters out there who think they are going to have the opportunity to vote on who will be following Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. That's a tough job. I've offered myself, based on what I have done, 27 years in the legislature, 8 years as mayor. It's important to know where people stand before you put them into office on the critical issues that matter. It's important that we continue what was on the Congresswoman's desk and get that moving forward. And it's important to take advantage of all the federal resources that are available right now. Or we miss that. I think I have to offer the best opportunity to do that. And I offer myself as a bridge to that next generation, and that's why I'm coming forward and asking your support.
Mr. Slater.
The COLA raise. For those that don't know what that is, the cost of living, right? The federal increased the cost of living raise for our elder, for those that are in need, but greedy Greg Abbott and his goon in the agriculture department did not elevate the qualifications. So now we have seniors costing out for their needs, meaning that those that made $125 in food stamps actually went down to $25, but the cost of living went up. Cost of living should be the worth of living. We name dropped the Honorable Sheila Jackson Lee, but let me tell you, for those that don't know, I suspended my campaign a week before the primary to support her and hold her hand to walk her to the finish line. And I want to do it for Kamala Harris. I want to do it for Jasmine Crockett. And I want to do it for each and every one of you. This is a revolution, and you need somebody that's going to fight and inspire. That's the experience we need right now. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you joining us for this special coverage of the Texas 18th Congressional District Democratic Debate, as well as the candidates. We appreciate all of you for being here as well. A reminder for you, the decision...
Hold on.
Y'all all right?
Hold
You're not
on.
done yet? Y'all
Not
okay?
yet.
A quick reminder for you, the decision of who will be the Democrat on the ballot now lies in the hands of the 88 Harris County Democratic Precinct chairs next week.
Now, that candidate will appear on the November 5th ballot against Republican Lena Santonzi. But because of the 18th district remains solidly blue, most of us expect and can claim that likely the Democrat will have a huge upper hand.
Quick reminder for you, the election is separate from the special election on the same exact day for a representative to serve out the rest of Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee's current term that ends on January 3rd. Candidates have until August 22nd to run for that special election.
We know there's a lot for you to understand between these two races, between all of these candidates and those who did not make it to the cut. But we want to invite you to keep up with what's happening on the election front on Fox 26 and the Defender Network. And I also want to say a prayer for the precinct judges, that God will guide you in making the right decision for the 18th Congressional District. We'd like to thank the Southeast Democratic Network and the Black Women's Greater Houston PAC for inviting us to be the media partners. And have a great day, and make sure you vote this November. And go with God.
Thank you.